The Watch is the latest and the greatest in pop culture from best friends Chris Ryan and Andy Greenwald. Join them as they discuss TV, movies, music, and much more. Check out The Watch on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Coke Zero Sugar. There's an all-new Coke Zero Sugar. It has a new and improved taste, and it's even more delicious. There's only one way to answer the question on everyone's mind. Is it the best Coke ever? Try it first.
This episode is brought to you by 3M. 3M has always been driven to improve lives with science and innovation. It's this forward-thinking mindset that led 3M to invent household items you've come to know and love, like Post-it notes and command hooks. But 3M believes they have a responsibility to use their science to improve lives in even more ways. That's why they're responding to the COVID-19 crisis by working on solutions for some of today's biggest challenges. As a leading provider of personal protective equipment, 3M is producing critical products for healthcare workers and first responders, and donating to local and humanitarian aid partners around the globe. They're also making more respirators than ever before, with plants working around the clock, producing more than 95 million respirators per month in the U.S., helping those on the front lines continue the fight. 3M Science, applied to life. Learn more about how 3M is helping the world respond to the COVID-19 pandemic at 3m.com/COVID.
Welcome into the Ringerverse. This is, of course, the Ringer's Nexus podcast feed for all things fandom. We are Van Lathan, host of Higher Learning, Rachel Lindsay and Van Lathan. We are Steve Allman. We are Jomi, the explainer, Adilaron. We are Coke Baby Chuck Charles Holmes, host of the Ringer Music Show. And together we are the Midnight Boys. All right, listen. We're the Midnight Boys. You guys have to follow and share the show. We're on all the social medias. That's what we do. We're very social Midnight Boys. We're up at midnight, but we're still social at midnight. It's kind of what we do. Today, we are taking a look at the highly anticipated MCU Disney Plus series, What If? Episode 2 is on the agenda. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the biggest news out there in nerd culture. And we're going to do a very special 4-on-4 later on with animation. Because we're in the animation lane right now. When you say, Charles, a lot of things, animation is out. Animation is hot.
Animation is hot. This is where I live. This is where I was born. You know, I'm like Bane. This is the pit that I was born into.
This is the pit you were born into?
Yeah.
Bane was the man.
Tom Hardy doesn't get enough respect. He was hard in that movie.
Bane was the man. Bane was like, yo, you think darkness is your ally? Stupid bastard. I was born into the dark. Yeah, I didn't see the light till much later. And when I did, it was blinding. I felt so sorry for Batman.
That might be a top 10 villain speech in a superhero movie.
As he's whipping his ass? Yeah, what?
Wait, really quick plug, because I need to be better at plugging stuff. Guys, we are ranking every single Drake album on the Ringer Music Show. The show is called Rank Me Later with my boy, Van's enemy, Big Waz.
Big Waz.
That's coming out this Friday. You got to go check it out. If you think you're mad at me on the Midnight Boys, y'all are going to be mad at me and Waz on Rank Me Later.
How can you be mad ranking Drake albums? Drake can't make nobody mad.
He can make Kanye mad.
Maybe Kanye. That's like getting mad ranking ice cream flavors. You go in there to say, hey, Rocky Road, pistachio. Also, you guys have to look forward to Mal's deep dives into What If. They come in every single Friday over there on the House of Mal. Remember, this is an instant reaction show. As far as what Mal is doing, it's the heady, it's the analytical, it's bringing in some of the biggest brains. I think she's gonna have Barack Obama on this Friday show to break down What If. They get deep into it, like super smart, the smartest people in the world. Or Neil deGrasse Tyson, Kip Thorne, all of those people are over there. So they're doing the heady stuff. I love that show. I actually listened to that people think that we go out, we listen to heavy spoilers, new rock stars. No, I listen to Mal. I listen to Mal when I want the smart take. She's right across the hall, so I'll listen to her. So y'all go check that out. Okay, Charles, you know what this means now. The pleasantries are over. We're into the podcast. You know what this means? It means we have to do something.
Hey, Steve, got to roll that tape. You ready, Steve?
We're getting ready to talk about the episode. You're listening to a reaction podcast. The spoilers are coming. Okay, we are talking about What If episode 2. Last time we ventured into the world of What If, it was what if Peggy Carter became Captain Carter, sort of a retelling of Captain America, the First Avenger, as if Peggy Carter had taken the super soldier serum. This one, totally different. We are now going to outer space. This is what if T'Challa becomes Star-Lord. Charles, instant thoughts about episode 2 of the MCU's What If?
Oh, I loved it. I really thought it worked. I really, really did think it works. The first episode, I was a little bit critical of the animation, the way they told the story, and I really just didn't know what they were going to do. And there's still stuff, like the animation still isn't for me. There's other little things that I can nitpick at, but this, I said on that first episode, I'm just like, a mark of a good animated show or movie is that it's going to do something that live action can't. It's going to make me think of the world in a way that I can't. You can really, really play around, and it did all that. It made me want to be there with T'Challa, this version of the Ravagers. It made me laugh. It made me emotional. I really, really think that they not only hit this out of the park, but I was just like, why didn't they lead with this? Like, this is the stronger offering, in my opinion. The whole time I was just like, I was very, very surprised and very, very happy by what we got. What about you?
Absolutely delightful. The MCU at its finest. The interesting thing about these what ifs are going to be not just to change characters, but to change themes. What does it mean when you take a character and what makes that character lovable, and what makes us fall in love with that character, and place that character in a world where they fundamentally change the themes of the world that we're in, right? Star-Lord, he's a Han Solo type guy who has to be pushed in the right direction. I mean, Han eventually, I guess, became more noble. But
I think calling Star-Lord, comparing him to Han Solo, is giving a lot of credit to Star-Lord that he doesn't deserve.
Well, look, what I mean by these are guys who are first motivated by the money.
Yes, true.
But really, their love and attachment to a woman kind of ends up pushing them to do the right thing more often than not, right? So I think in that way, the loner anti-hero, he's really about himself, but then he learns how to be about other people in the entire galaxy. So changing that character with the character of T'Challa, who is at his core inherently altruistic, just alters and modifies the entire Guardians universe in the way that you saw. Like, they put a king in the place of a pirate, and his regalness rubbed off and affected everyone. And I felt like the episode did a fantastic job of showing just how amazing T'Challa is, just how fucking awesome the guy is, man. It's a little sad to watch, obviously, at some times, but to see the adventures, to see the strength, to see all of that stuff, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I really, really was delighted in seeing it. Seriously.
Honestly, the thing that surprised me, I went into this episode having just no expectations whatsoever, which is probably the best way to enter these what ifs. And it made me realize, I'm like, oh, T'Challa and Star-Lord are the perfect characters to swap, because, to your point, they are on opposite poles. Even their movies, like Black Panther is essentially a movie about like interventionism and like whether a country who is advanced should go out and help the world, whether they should share all of their knowledge and science with the world. And like throughout that whole movie, T'Challa is like wrestling with that. And in this what if, you kind of get that. You get like, well, what if we took that question, but instead of it being vibranium, instead of it being like his smarts, basically T'Challa is taking, like you said, his altruism and infecting it through whoever he touches. And that's why when you see like, oh, like T'Challa, through the way he is, can change somebody like Thanos. He can make somebody come to his side. And I also like the dichotomy of like, like, I feel like the MCU is really hate Star-Lord. Like, the writers are just like, fuck this dude. Because, like, for the past couple entries, he's just been like a regular white dude who's just like fucked up. Like, spoiler alert, at the end of this, he's just like a janitor at Dairy Queen. You're just like, oh, if he was not picked up by Yondu, he wouldn't be shit. And T'Challa, you're like, yo, you can place T'Challa anywhere on God's green earth. He'll triple his worth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Star-Lord was in there mopping up at the end of the show. I can be honest with you, I'm interested in where that's going to go. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. This was Chadwick Boseman's final MCU performance. I know that he's going to show up in a couple of more episodes in What If. If I'm led to believe that, he's going to show up in a couple more episodes of What If, is what I heard. It's what I heard on the old YouTubes, okay? The YouTubians. YouTubians. That's what we should call people who spend all day on YouTube like me.
The YouTubians?
YouTubians. But I thought he was placed really well here. The dialogue was incredibly witty.
The humor was amazing. This was probably one of the funnier moments. Like, actually, it made me think of like what I've kind of been missing from the MCU in a while. Like, this is like the funniest it has been in forever. Like, there was a couple moments that got me. I'm like, damn.
The MCU, once you get to like the end games of things, you're talking about big, serious, incredibly high stakes, high leverage moments that the MCU is having. We did more crying in Endgame than we did laughing. And we haven't really laughed in a while. We laughed a little bit at some things that would happen here and now, but as far as something that had the complete tone, that comedic tone, like Guardians or Thor Ragnarok, we haven't been there in a little while. Not for the whole thing.
The last couple of things we've gotten, like WandaVision was heavy. Like, it was an emotionally heavy show. Like, same thing with Falcon. It's about race. Even Loki. Like, Loki had funny moments, but it was still very much a show about, like, identity. And I just didn't realize how much I miss. I'm just like, yo, I just want them to crack jokes. I want to see a quirky family, like, getting along, running heists, doing all that shit. So that's one thing I'm just, like, in this next phase of the MCU, I'm like, yo, can we get back to a little bit more of the lighter side of this? You know what I mean?
No, I get it. And from the opening scene that we see T'Challa facing off with Korath, which is, of course, a scene that was the opening scene in Guardians of the Galaxy, it sets the tone for how this is going to go. Whereas in the opening scene of Guardians, it's Star-Lord trying to convince Korath of who he is, and Korath not caring. This seems completely different. This guy was like, I don't know if you guys ever saw Coming to America. I'm not sure if Charles has ever seen it. It's a movie that came out.
Jeez, with the shots. God.
I'm just saying. But there's a point in the movie where Eddie Murphy's character, Akeem, is at a St. John's basketball game. He's there and he's waiting in line to go to the bathroom. And there's some guys that come by that are from his home country and know that he is actually the Prince of Zamunda. And they immediately begin to kneel and their faces light up and they're so happy to see him because he's like a celebrity to them. That reminded me of the scene with Korath and T'Challa, inside the temple where he's trying to grab the Power Stone. Just so happy to be in his presence. So thrilled to have met the legendary Star-Lord, even to get his ass kicked by him. And then, of course, we set out on our journey, which takes all kinds of twists and turns.
Can I just say Korath, just throughout the episode, like anybody who will listen, he's like, yo, man, like, I'm not trying to say this, but like, me and Star-Lord are best friends. Every single time he said that shit, I fucking cracked up. It got funnier each and every time.
It was great. T'Challa also did I think the biggest surprise for me, and we're going to talk about where the episode goes, but I did not see Thanos coming.
Oh, no.
I did not see Thanos coming. I look up and I'm like, it's Thanos. And I keep waiting for the Thanos to become, you can't rehabilitate fucking Thanos, right? I keep waiting for Thanos to Thanos it up and have a plan and be diabolical. But he's not. It's so funny. And every time he's explaining his plan to people, which, think about this. This is another thing that I love. Instant reaction show. This is another thing that I loved. Thanos' plan to wipe out half the galaxy, half the universe, was the driving force for an entire phase of Marvel movies, right? The driving force, it was a punchline in this show. It shows you the power of the narrative and how we can really get into another story and completely move away from things that it was a punchline. They kept going back to it as a callback. Hey, that sounds like genocide. Oh, but it's efficient. Like it like stories build on top of each other, and we're the last layer is the one that we're always the most satisfied with. And so to take that character who is like the biggest bad of the big bads of Marvel thus far, and turn him really into a lovable hero type wisecracking guy in 30 minutes. Bravo, man. Bravo.
Turning him into like the embarrassing dad. Because like at the end, like Nebula's just like embarrassed of Thanos because like he's talked to the Dora Milaje and he's just trying to explain to anybody who listens, like, no, you don't understand. The plan is efficient. And the Dora Milaje is like, it sounds like genocide. And Nebula's just being like the embarrassed are like, yo, dad, can you stop telling everybody about this fucking dumb plan? I thought it was genius. It was actually like, we got something similar in Loki when they were saying like the Infinity Stones are just paperweights.
Absolutely, yeah.
But to me, this was, the joke landed even more because you got to see someone, a character, a villain that you were so afraid of for so many films, turned lovable. And I didn't think that they could do that in a 40-minute show. That was, to me, incredible. But if I have to push back on one thing, did they make Thanos go out like a punk? He was we learned like Thanos was like beating up the Hulk. And now like it was like 2 Black Order goons almost got him out of here. I was just like the power scaling of it a little bit felt a little off.
I mean, Marvel does that sometimes. Also, do we have a definitive answer on whether or not Thanos' dismantling of the Hulk was in any way aided by the Power Stone? Because this has gone back and forth. I've heard people say that he had the Power Stone, which is why he was able to screw over the Hulk like that. But I've also heard people say that, he's a soldier and a fighter. Hulk is a big goon and he could have done it anyway.
Wait, Joe me the explainer. Let us know.
So if you go back and you watch the 2 films, The Gauntlet, it's explicit that he has to use his hands, right? He has to close his fist to use the Gauntlet. Doctor Strange is like, make sure he doesn't close his fist so he can't use the power of the stones, right? And so during the fight with the Hulk, that was no stones. Boy, Hulk just got his cheeks clapped. That's essentially what happened.
Which is kind of weird. But look, the Hulk has been depowered throughout the Hulk has been disgustingly depowered throughout his entire run here in Marvel. Don't get me wrong. Thanos, I almost fell back into Thanos. Thanos is an Eternal, and he has a ridiculous amount of power. Without the stones, he's one of the more powerful. But the way he did the Hulk was a flawless victory. It was really fucked up.
All right, here's my thing with the Hulk. Like, Hulk isn't even my favorite character, but like, if you read like comic book runs like World War Hulk, like Hulk's coming back to Earth and destroying no one's stopping him. Yes. So it's very funny. Like throughout the whole MCU, people were just like, Hulk goes out like a punk in multiple movies.
Yeah. But back to your point about Thanos, they flipped it and they let Thanos get his issue a little bit. The Black Order is kind of there giving him the business. Although he did his thing. He was doing his thing. What was your favorite twist in terms of Star-Lord's story in this, though? What was the favorite little tweak that they made that you really liked?
Thanos was my favorite. I would say number 1, but if we're going 1B, I loved Howard the Duck showing up. Whenever Howard the Duck shows up,
I like Howard.
I vibe with it. I'm just like, yeah, give me more Howard. I thought that, like, once again, like, I thought that you could have stopped with Thanos and I would have still thought it was a great, perfect episode. But then you got Howard the Duck out here and I'm like, all right, y'all just showing off now. Y'all up like by 20 and you're just like doing tricks now.
They love just throwing Howard in there and letting Howard get his shit off for a little bit. Do me a favor, Charles. Sing the Howard the Duck theme song.
I don't know.
Okay.
Was this a test?
Jomi, Steve, one of you guys sing the Howard the Duck theme song.
At what point did you think I watched Howard the Duck?
Interesting.
At what point?
Really tried to get me out here. Meanwhile, the other 2 Midnight Boys have never seen that fucking terrible Howard the Duck movie. I've seen like 5 minutes of it.
It's not terrible.
Van, you got to understand, we weren't born in 1945.
For real, right? Bro. Like, for real.
It's not terrible. Howard the Duck. Hey, if it ain't funky, don't feel it. And it's on an arrow straight through my heart. Come on, Howard the Duck. Yeah. That's the song.
I hate to break to you, Van, but the other Midnight Boys still have their hairlines, so we have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. So.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. You know what? I'm just letting you guys know something. There are comebacks. Like economic comebacks. There are all kinds of comebacks. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the old man game, and I'm gonna say you missed out on it, and it was great. You guys should watch the Howard the Duck movie. It was great. It was really a lot of fun, but whatever. Fuck it. Oh, Howard the Duck. Now, because I know the good things in life, you guys don't know that. Whatever. Let's go. It's fine. Broke asses.
Did you just call us broke?
No, it's okay. T'Challa's story here. I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, I gotta give a shout out real quick to Blonde Nebula, my girl.
Oh, she looked fantastic.
She looks so good, bro.
It's like the Amber Rose thing when you see Amber Rose with hair and you're like, oh shit. Like, wait, can I wait, real quick.
What?
Real quick. Was T'Challa tapping that?
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
There was energy.
There was chemistry.
Yeah, there was energy. There was chemistry. I kept waiting for Gamora to show up, but I guess in the trailer I went back and watched that she's in Thanos' armor in one of the shows. So I guess we'll get more from her, maybe in this particular situation, because her dad didn't go on to fulfill his purpose in killing half of the universe. Maybe that's something that Gamora picks up, but she wasn't in there. She was one of the only characters that was missing. Well, no, not true. I didn't see Rocket.
Groot weren't there.
Rocket and Groot weren't there, so we'll see. Maybe Rocket and Groot join Gamora, and it's going to be Guardians against Guardians or something, because I like to think that a lot of these episodes are going to be tied in together with the what ifs. They're going to be one shots, but there's going to be a common thread, whatever. So a lot of stuff happening. A lot of theories out there.
Wait, would you let somebody call you Cha-Cha? That annoyed me the whole time. I know it was a pet name.
Just pet names are pet names. They're
Cha-Cha,
just,
really?
It's just that. What do you want your pet name to be? Like, what do you want it to
Cha-Cha.
be? You want it to be something. It's a pet name.
I would let Blonde Nebula call me whatever she wanted. So
all right, Thirsty Jomi. This is
hold on, Jomi.
So,
Jomi, you would let Blonde Nebula call you whatever she wanted?
Relax,
God
bud.
damn.
Whoa,
Relax.
Jomi. Wow.
There are limits.
Oh,
Damn.
Jesus, Jomi.
damn.
Whoa.
There are limits. All right.
Jomi said if you blonde, you can say whatever.
Whatever.
Whoa, Jomi.
You got to
Jomi,
stop.
were you at the Capitol?
Yeah, Jomi stormed the Capitol.
Real.
I don't mind Jomi. He's one of us. He doesn't mind it.
He's one of the good ones.
He's one of the good ones. Jomi doesn't mind it. Yeah, let him do it. Come on over here, Jomi. Jomi don't even get mad when we say it. Are we like... Real quick, before we get to our reflections on this episode, our villain here was the Collector.
Loved it.
I like that.
Everything about it. He was getting busy when the Collector popped out with the Dark Elf dagger, like with the Captain America shit, all that shit. I'm like, wow, they really didn't do enough with the Collector.
Yeah, well, the Collector is an easy character to make a villain because he's just completely weird and sniveling and has been throughout the entire MCU. So, and we never really got as big of a hunk of the Collector as we wanted, to your point. So to see him actually have that same type of Collector energy, I don't think that was Benicio del Toro, but to see him have that same type of Collector energy and actually be the bad guy here, because we lost all our bad guys. Oh, it was Benicio del Toro. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. It didn't sound like Benicio del Toro. I have a big problem figuring out whose voices are actually there and whose voices that they brought in other actors to play.
Oh, I have to go to IMDb.
Sometimes even the people there, it doesn't sound like them. So excuse me, I stand corrected. It was Benicio del Toro. But I like that. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fact that, because the Collector in and of himself that's something weird and sinister to do. So the fact that he would be there and be the one that was trying to I guess, collect T'Challa or collect the stone made a lot of sense. I dug it. And another twist that I really enjoyed was that the Black Order was out of work. So they had to find somebody else to work for. Thanos cut them loose. So they had to go and find some
This brings up another pet peeve I've had.
Okay.
Black Order didn't really have much to do in Infinity War. In terms of like, we were told the Black Order was like so bad and so sinister, but they collectively on the screen for like 10 minutes and they don't do much.
I mean, what'd you want them to do?
I just want to see them have a little bit more fighting prowess. Like in this, you saw them get busy, which confused me because I'm just like, wait, two of them are taking out Thanos, but like one of them had trouble with like Captain America, Black Widow.
That's the only part of this that doesn't make any sense. So so the Black Order, you know, Ebony Maw going back and forth with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Iron Man, and he held it down. Like he held it down. He did his thing, right? The only part of their MCU existence that doesn't make sense is how they essentially beat Vision and Scarlet Witch. Now, I know they snuck Vision, but they essentially beat Vision and Scarlet Witch, and then they turned around and got housed by Cap, Falcon, and Black Widow. I'm sorry. That don't make no sense. And
finally, someone agrees with me.
And look, you can come at Van Lathan on Twitter and Instagram. I'll argue up and down. I've heard that don't make no sense. Cap had the element of surprise. Cap catch the spear. That makes zero sense. Like no sense. So that's it. That's the only time. But in this, they're up against Thanos. It's a good fight. I enjoyed that as well. So last episode, you didn't dig as much because you felt like it was essentially swapping out of Peggy Carter for Steve Rogers, and it's just a retelling of the first Avenger. This episode is based heavily in Guardians of the Galaxy, but it doesn't feel like that at all.
No, it doesn't feel like a recap at all.
At all. It feels like an entirely new, fresh story. Even the relationship between Yondu and Star-Lord in this particular one feels completely from because they're not at odds the entire time. They're actually homeboys from the beginning, which is something that we didn't get really from the main story until the end of Guardians 2. Was this an improvement?
It has to be to make me care about the characters, to make me care about this show when like aesthetically I'm so just like my brain is like, I don't want to watch this. And after like 5 or 10 minutes, once the jokes started flying, actually, it was T'Challa versus Korath in the beginning. Once that made me laugh, I'm like, I'm here. And I do think that this episode also had a stronger theme that they spelled out right in the beginning. The theme of like nature versus nurture. Is T'Challa who he is no matter where he goes? And I really, really think that works for the character. Because like Wakanda in Black Panther, the movie, like it shapes who he is. And then in this, being in a galaxy, you still realize that like T'Challa there's a heart to that character. There's morals to that character that will never change. But the way he goes about, everything is a little bit different because we realize at the end of the last Black Panther, like he goes to the Bay and that's where he decides, oh, like I'm going to try to improve the rest of the world. And in this, he's a kid. And like by the time he's grown up, he's known as a Robin Hood, who's literally doing what he did in the Bay, but on like this galactic level that I was just like, oh, this was the theme, the characters, the stories, the punchlines, everything. It just worked for me. What about you?
Same. It just showed his driving force to be good can change so many things and save so many people. He literally saved trillions of lives by changing Thanos. Boy, I'm fighting with the Thanos thing. I'm trying to do it right, you guys.
I want to say Thanos so fucking bad.
Yeah, bro, I'm fighting with the Thanos thing. But you know, yeah, it's a lot like Captain America, Steve Rogers, in that, you know, obviously that's a powered person after you take the serum, but the real power is who the character is. I just thought that this was the best example of What If, because you take a character whose essence is so pure and so not just pure, but well understood, and you place it in a different world and you watch that world change around the character. I liked it. I really dug it. And
couldn't agree more.
And just to be honest with you, man, you forget that Chadwick is gone, you know, just because in life we move on from things. But man, we lost a lot. You know, we lost a lot. We lost a first-rate performer, a first-rate human being, dignity, class, grace. Someone that for years suffered silently as, his body and his physical being deteriorated, but still found it necessary to give us his last ounce of life force through his art. It just hits. It hit. This episode felt like a celebration of that. It felt like a celebration of not just the goodness of T'Challa, but a celebration of the goodness of Chadwick Boseman. So I was really into it. Beyond the emotional part of it, just in the clear story stuff, it was amazing. But that puts it over the top when you think about what they were celebrating.
I will say that there was a magic to this episode where for the whole episode, I had forgot that Chadwick was dead because I was instantly like transported to like another time. And it like that to me was the greatest gift because until they had the little memoriam thing at the end, that's when it hit. And that's when I got emotional. But I was just like, oh, like Chadwick at the end of the day was like an entertainer. Like he had a power to transport you to another time, another space, and really make you fall in love with the character. And it was just like, that's probably the saddest thing where it's like at the end of that episode, I'm like, oh shit, like he's not here. I was so wrapped up in like just hearing his voice and all the comedy and like the good time. I actually give him kudos. This could have been a very sad affair where they tried to make it like super grandiose and super important, but it was just like, no, like give them something really, really fun to chew on for 40 minutes and like just make them all realize we missed. We're going to miss and we're missing out on just a generational talent. So I agree with you, man.
Yeah. Felt like at the end, we ended up in heaven. We were back in Wakanda. Yeah. Everybody was chilling together. Jokes were being cracked. It was a good feeling. I appreciate Disney and the MCU for making me feel that way. That was dope. All right. We will be checking in on What If throughout its season with our thoughts and reactions. We are loving that. We are enjoying this. Charles, I guess for you, they're 1 for 2. For me, they're 2 for 2.
They're 1 for 2, but I want to say everybody, I feel like everybody's like, yo, Charles hates things. I'm just like, no, I love things a lot. I just hate things a lot too. And this is probably the perfect example of just like, yo, when Marvel hits, when superhero shit hits, I'm going to sing its praises. But when it doesn't, man, I'm pulling out the chopper. Like that's just how it has to be.
There it goes. Oh, look, by the way, all of y'all young whippersnappers, y'all need to go and watch the original Howard the Duck movie from the 80s.
Man, Steve cut his mic.
How come y'all feel like y'all can, how come y'all feel like y'all don't have to put in the same shit? Let me tell you guys something real quick.
Oh,
all of you guys, let me tell you guys something. This is not really so much for you, Steve, because you're white. Let me talk to Jomi and them real quick. Do you know there was a time when it wasn't easy to be a blerd? Now, fucking Endgame comes out, makes $1 billion. Everybody's like, I'm a nerd. I like comic books. I'm a nerd. Do you know there was a time when going to the comic store after basketball practice, people weren't feeling that. There was a time when trying to go to Comic Cons and see the bootleg copy of the Fantastic Four movie directed by Roger Corman, spending a whole summer trying to see it. People weren't fucking with that. Like, it was a time when all of this stuff, endless amounts of times playing video games, pooling your money with your boys, trying to get the first appearance of fucking Bishop. You know what I mean? Like, it's a time when none of this stuff was cool. Watching these movies, none of it was. It was a subculture. Worshiping Todd McFarlane, none of that. And for you guys to sit up right here and besmirch the fucking blurs that paved the way for y'all to sit y'all young asses up here and besmirch the name of Howard the Duck, Tim Robbins, Leah Thompson, Jeffrey Jones, Howard the Duck, the movie. You don't get to do that. You don't have the answers, Charles. I've been doing this longer than you.
My only response, I would like to quote one of the great bards of our time, Stephen A. Smith. We don't care. We don't care.
All right, okay? Well. I want to do right now a Midnight Boys watch party. Midnight Boys watch party for us and all of our Midnight Riders out there. Howard the Duck the movie.
This episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you're a business owner who's hiring, it can be challenging finding the right person for your role. That's why hiring can feel like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you could post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope that the right person comes along. Consider posting your job for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Spotify. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites with just one click. Then, their matching technology finds people with the right skills and experience and actively invites them to apply. So, while other companies overwhelm you with way too many options, ZipRecruiter finds you who you're looking for, the needle in a haystack. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Spotify. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Spotify. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
All right, let's go to Nerd News Minute. Started. Kevin Feige had to get his Sean Spicer on.
Woo.
Cleaning up with the big man. Kevin Feige. All right, so there was a little controversy surrounding Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi isn't even out yet. They premiered very recently. Shout out to a friend of mine, Jason, who went out there to the Shang-Chi premiere. But Disney CEO Bob Chapek, I guess is his name. The only Bob I know is Iger. But Bob Chapek, he described Shang-Chi's release strategy as an experiment for the company. Now, I will give you the quote in full. So this happened to do, it says, as the film, it's an interesting experiment for us. He was referring to the fact that the film only has a 45-day theatrical window. He said the prospect of being able to take a Marvel title to the service after going theatrical within 45 days will be yet another data point to inform our actions going forward in our titles. Now, what he's essentially talking about is the fact that you're going to get a 45-day theatrical run of Shang-Chi. Will only be in theaters. And then after that, you're going to see it on Disney Plus Premier Access. And he says that it's an interesting experiment for Disney and Marvel. Now, Simu Liu, the star of Shang-Chi, didn't fucking appreciate that. Like he did not like that. He came back on Twitter. This was August 14th. He says, "We are not an experiment. We are the underdog, the underestimated. We are the ceiling breakers. We are the celebration of culture and joy that will preserve after an embattled year. We are the surprise. I'm fired the fuck up to make history on September 3rd. Join us." Kevin Feige jumped into this and made sure that everyone knew. Okay. That it was not, that Chapek didn't mean what he said. He is not a shy man. I think in that particular tweet you can see, and I think everyone does, it's a misunderstanding. It was not the intention. The proof is in the movie. We swung for the fences as we always do with the amount of creative energy we put in and the budget. There's no expense spared to bring this origin story to the screen. This has made a lot of people think that maybe there are some people at Marvel who are looking at Shang-Chi as more of an experiment, not just because of the unique release strategy behind the movie, but also maybe, possibly a small bit because of the ethnicities of the leads in the movie.
Like primarily the first Marvel movie that has a primarily all Asian cast.
They do not like to be referred to as an experiment. Charles, your thoughts about this?
Very fair. I rock with Simu Liu. Love him. Big fan from Kim's Convenience. Love that man. And I do think, like, hey, you work your whole life, get a Marvel movie, the pandemic hits, all this stuff happens. And then to hear that the CEO of Disney calls it an experiment, I would be kind of mad too, because I do think that, like, we know how the world works. If this movie fails, then who generally gets blamed? Who is the company like, oh, well, I don't know if we're going to try that again. And I think Simu has to stand up and be like, yo, no, like, that's not how you refer to a movie, especially one of your first Marvel movies and one of the first superhero movies in America, at least, that has an all Asian cast or mostly Asian cast. I get it. I actually kind of give him props for most actors to be like, nah, I got to eat this. That's the big man up top. And him to be like, nah, I'm not rocking with that. Kudos to him.
Yeah, gotta be careful. You don't want to other this. Okay, this is a Marvel movie. It's unique because of the story. It's unique because of the characters. Don't other the movies because they're not other when it's white guys that are the leads, right? So it's not an experiment when you take a chance on a new director like Taika Waititi on Thor Ragnarok, right? It's not an experiment then. It's just you're doing something new. It's not experiments when you do other stuff, when you step out, when your leads look the way leads have looked all the time. It's not an experiment. It's a Marvel movie with a different flavor to it. Okay? It's a different movie, different story. All right. So I personally think that this was a misunderstanding. I think that this was probably a CEO who speaks in business speak. But this is another reason why the business speak and cultural speak oftentimes don't mesh well. He's talking about, hey, this is unique because we want to know if this is going to work in the release schedule, in the release strategy. And, nobody wants to other this movie, though, especially not the stars. They don't want to be othered. This is a Marvel film. It's a Marvel film like any other Marvel film. It's got the same budget, should have the same push, and should be given the same chance. And I think that's what the lead was trying to say. And I think that the point was well taken. And Feige seems to have gotten the point. So there you go. Just like a little bit of controversy, not bad though. A little bit of control.
Is this the limit of representation? And what I mean by that is like, I personally, like when at the peak of this, Black Panther, all this stuff, more diversity, I was always like, look, we always got to be careful when like corporations start throwing around the word representation because like, I don't actually think it means that much unless you're really